I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Big hour coming up, and we're starting with the big story. Everyone is talking about this because this is real. This is real. I spent a lot of time last night talking about defense attorneys after the conviction. Oh, we're going to appeal. We're going to get a new trial. We're going to make all these motions. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. This one is different. It is different, way different, because of the nature of the allegations, and we're learning more tonight. First, let me show you Alex Murdaugh's defense attorneys here, Jim Griffin, Dick Harpootlian, talking about what they have filed, because it's significant. It's extremely significant, and it's based upon what they're calling newly discovered information. They're not saying, oh, Judge, you made a mistake here, you made a mistake there. No, we found something out that was like really, really bad involving the jury. Take a listen.
What we had filed today, supported by sworn testimony of jurors, is that the Clerk of Court had improper private communications with the jurors, and the subject matter of those communications was the credibility of the defense that the Murdaugh legal defense team put up, and it was the believability of the defendant's own testimony.
The Clerk of Court is the person that makes sure the jury gets their food. If they're put up for the night, someplace to stay, their travel accommodations are met. They're not someone that ever should talk to them about the case. I've never had it happen. Again, I've been doing this for a very long time. Never heard of it happening until this case.
Okay, and then this morning on Good Morning America on ABC, Griffin and Harpootlian showed up there and gave us a little more information. Let's take a listen.
The two jurors that gave us affidavits hired a lawyer, Joe McCullough, before they would talk to us and before they gave us the affidavits. The other jurors out there are on a group text, and we are reasonably informed that last week when these allegations began to surface, one of the jurors said, quote, "Who's talking?" I'm concerned that these jurors don't understand the import of what's getting ready to happen. They need to get lawyers. They need to understand they may have some exposure, and they need to be careful before they start talking to the FBI or SLED or even us.
Wow. How about that? I mean, and I understand, right? You make a lot of noise. They always do. They always do. But if you've got jurors that are saying, shush, 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 don't talk about, and it's something improper, we've got a problem. I mean, we've got a serious problem. So they mentioned, Dick Harpootlian mentioned that they hired a lawyer named Joe McCullough. Like they're like really good friends, these two guys, by the way, just so you know. And we knew that during the trial. But they, you know, it's a small community, small legal community. Sometimes they're on the same side, sometimes they're on opposite sides. Here, they're more aligned because the information that McCullough's clients, now these jurors have, helps the defense. So Joe McCullough joined us here on Court TV, spoke with my friend and colleague, Michael Ayala. Take a listen.
The claims don't please me as a trial lawyer or as a person who spent 6 weeks in the courtroom watching this trial and having a relationship with the Clerk of Court, who did a good job in running that courtroom and courthouse. So I don't take any great pleasure in where we find ourselves. So these are tough allegations. I found her to be a very charming person and one who appeared to be doing her job. These allegations are troubling. They're going to have to be examined, and there may be innocent explanations, and there may not be. But she, I understand today, has hired her own set of lawyers, and that's appropriate and necessary. And my clients, for their part, are courageous ladies who came forward reluctantly, who agreed to speak to the defense. And I think all of this just now is in the hands of the court. How I came to be involved on behalf of these jurors is I was asked to be. Initially, I was asked right after the trial to help jurors not be bothered by media, by the press. So I stood in a protective role at that time, trying to get them some peace and privacy. And I still have that role now. These jurors are courageous. They deserve the respect of the public for giving their versions of events and having the courage to do that. They don't deserve to be rolled and trolled by some of the more obsessed public out there. I think there's an investigation that's next, and the two jurors I represent, the other jurors some of whom have been on television, flown to New York, talked freely to the press, now will find themselves in rooms with investigators, if not in a courtroom under oath, and they're going to have to answer questions about their best recollections. So it's not really a contest of numbers, it's a contest of information. And I mean, if the defense is able to establish this tampering that's been alleged by them, then the burden shifts. There's a presumption of a tainted process, and that presumption is a strong one.
Absolutely, and I agree. If you've got the clerk of the court going in the jury room, having private conversations with the foreperson in like the toilet and at the Moselle property, and is telling these jurors to take a look at Alex Murdaugh's body language and don't be fooled and don't take him at their word. No, nobody's allowed to do that. Like, the spouses of these jurors aren't allowed to do that. The children of these jurors aren't allowed to do that. These jurors aren't allowed to say that to each other during the course of the trial. None of that. But here it's like the clerk of the court. Now, let's remember, and she's denied this. We're waiting for more details in this denial, but she is not saying, oh yeah, I did that. No, that's not the case. But we're in a very unusual position tonight. And this could blow up that verdict, folks, and blow up that first trial and bring us back down to the low country or maybe somewhere else in South Carolina for another trial for Alex Murdaugh. Believe it or not. If you don't believe me, let me bring the think tank, because I think tonight they may actually agree with me to a certain extent. Joining us live in the studio, family law attorney, law professor at Emory University, Randy Kessler. Also with us, criminal defense attorney Meg Strickler. And finally, the man behind the glasses, criminal defense attorney Josh Schiffer.
Big taint, man.
Yeah.
Huge taint. Never seen anything like it, affecting the legitimacy of the court.
This is bad.
Do you know what, though? I was just thinking when you...
But there's a big if. Can we agree?
Yes.
Can we agree?
Yeah.
This is a big if. But what do you think of Joe McCullough, though, coming out and speaking and saying, I represented these people before these affidavits were done?
But I was about to say, think about what would be really cool what the prosecutor should do is let all the shenanigans happen and just go try him for financial fraud, which could still get him tens and decades in prison. And just say, to heck with this. We already know you're guilty of that. Let's just change our focus instead of wasting all the taxpayer money on appellate issues.
Why are defense attorneys always worried about the taxpayer money? Right? No death penalty. It's going to cost more money. Don't try this case. Oh, no, no, no. You want to pay for this? No, it's justice. It's the cost of doing justice.
We practice with love very often of your wallet. And that's really one of the things that drives us. So we're concerned with everyone's wallets, and the misuse of public funds is a big deal. When you see how much
It's not
waste...
the misuse, it's we're trying cases. They're all on the payroll.
Why try...
Okay, the judge gets paid the same whether he does this trial or another trial. The prosecutor gets paid the same. There's no overtime for prosecutors. I was a prosecutor. We don't get overtime.
But you know who doesn't get
paid? We get a
paid?
salary.
You know who's not getting paid? The jurors. They're getting paid bupkis, right?
$25
They're getting paid, and they're the innocent people here.
Yes.
And lest anybody think that they did something wrong.
No, they did nothing wrong.
They did absolutely nothing wrong. And of course, when you have someone, a figure of authority, talking to them, what are they going to say? Oh, I can't talk to you. They're going to listen. And that's where the problem starts. And then it's just an unwinding,
and it's a southern way to chit-chat, too. They're in the South.
And what do you think about that elected official who has in their discretion the ability to either spend tons of money and resources and assets, or they can make a reasonable offer that someone will take, and then we can skip the whole thing.
And move forward.
Because I
There's that
guarantee
taxpayer money again.
there were offers that would have been considered.
Are you talking about a plea for Murdaugh?
Yes.
Always.
No plea for murder. It's double
Why are we
murder.
trying in this case? He's got so many problems.
He's going to jail forever anyway, right? So this is his time in the sunshine, his time in the limelight, and that's what he's used to.
But you guys are jumping ahead. We don't have a new trial yet. We do not. We've got to get there first, right?
I was assuming
it's a long road.
To do the assumption of if this all is true, and if for some reason they grant
Okay,
a new
so what
trial.
happens now? There has to be a hearing, right?
Yes, of course.
But it can't be in front of Judge Newman.
It will be.
He's a
in front of-
potential witness,
it's
isn't
a
he?
motion for a new trial. Yeah.
But isn't he a potential witness in all of this?
Not
Heard
yet,
any of
no.
that? Has he been named a witness?
He may be by the defense. There were
Because
conversations.
that's going to be a great optic. Hey, Judge, we're going to kick you off of your big trial because you might have seen something that you should have seen that
The
we
judge can't do the new trial
Good
anyway. There's
times.
mandatory retirement. He's done. He's
Yeah.
done this year.
Yep,
He
yep.
hit 72. He looks great, by the way. I couldn't believe he was 72. But he hit 70. Not that 72 is old,
Isn't it
but he hit
funny,
72, and that's
Isn't it
mandatory
funny?
You are
retirement.
not allowed to replace this couch with him, just
Right.
so you know. Y'all write the station. Don't let. No, I'm kidding. But it's a shame to think that this collateral attack, and that's really what it is, which collateral attacks are hard. You're not supposed to be able to disturb the ruling of a jury. Juries are supposed to be the be-all, end-all.
Right.
Everybody else couldn't decide, so we asked 12 people who couldn't get out of jury duty to decide for us. It should be done.
It's so surprising. This is like one of those great movies like The Sixth Sense, and you've got this twist ending.
yeah.
I never would have seen this
Never.
coming.
Right, but the thing you hope that doesn't happen is that people are going to be more afraid. No one wants to serve anyway. You serve on a jury, you feel fulfilled, you're glad you did it, but until you
your job.
get on the jury, nobody wants to be there. Now we're going to have people saying, what's in it for me? I'm going to be there, I'm going to lose time at work, I'm going to lose time with my family,
Some idiot
and I might be
business.
dragged into a post-trial lawsuit and have to get my own lawyer?
Not just that. What if I get accused of a crime? You've dealt with investigators. They're not always the nicest people.
Yeah, but the jury's not going to get in trouble for that.
Oh,
The
you
fact that they're
start.
going to be interviewed and all that is just more time away from their normal lives. And I think there's a really good point to just tainting the whole process.
And compare and contrast what investigators love to do is talk to everybody and then look and see it who might have not been completely honest or whose version differs just a little bit. They walk up to that person and say, hey, you know, false information's a mandatory felony in federal court and it's 5 years. Are you sure you don't want to correct what you told us without any other context about the other people who told us something
So
different?
you think we may get different stories from different jurors?
you always
could be.
will. I think you'll always get some variance.
Okay. Now, one thing that the defense was sort of alluding to, that there was some sort of financial motive for this clerk to do this. That, all right, we get the conviction, we get all that, and then she gets this great book deal, right? Because she wrote a book. We know that she wrote a book about this, but she had a co-author. That co-author was on the show last night and explained to us just how much money is involved with this book.
I got to tell you, you asked my reaction. I was pretty upset at what Harpootlian said was the motivation that Becky had. Last time I checked, Simon & Schuster did not send us a check for $200,000. The Gordons and the Hills put up $30,000 of our own money because we felt this was an interesting story to tell. So right away, Vinny, for that to be motivation for her to get a book deal is completely false. We advanced a check for $30,000. You know, you got attorney fees, you got to get set up on Amazon, you got to print so many copies, liability insurance, editors, you name it. But we felt it was a story that should be told. I mean, in my lifetime, I'm 59 years old. I don't know that there will ever be another trial like this. And it was my honor and pleasure to work with somebody with such integrity and character as someone like Becky Hill.
And we're hoping there's not an exactly same trial just like that in the future here, based upon what happened. But to me, this is significant because and again, I talked about the grain of salt last night. Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin talking, this big motive. There was no motive. There's $30,000 in the hole
Yeah, I don't agree with
putting
that,
this
though.
book
I don't
out.
agree
How
with
many
that,
times
though.
have I heard you say you don't need motive? It's nice when people want to know why did she do it. But his statement that there's only one trial like this in my lifetime, that might be exactly what the clerk was thinking.
Exactly.
I'm never going to have another chance like this to see Maybe it's not
But
financial.
it's not about money.
Maybe it's about
there's no dollars.
But
They
wait.
lost
Maybe
money.
it's-
They're going to lose money on
They
this
may
deal.
not have lost money. How do we know? They put $30,000 to make the book.
It's not in the
Have we
New
looked
York
on it?
Times bestsellers list.
But is
They
it-
weren't doing it just because they wanted to tell the story.
Thank
right?
you.
They wanted
They
to tell
wanted
the
to make
story.
money from the
There's
book.
something in it. It's a
Yes.
day in the sunlight. It's a day on the press. It's potentially, it's an investment, right? They're not doing the rest of us a favor by telling the story. We saw it, right? You guys
we
broadcast
lived it.
We don't need a book to tell us what happened. We saw it.
We
Exactly.
need another book about that there's already a bunch of books, but this one needs to be from somebody who actually worked there and already got paid to go to this trial. Come on. This is somebody that is clearly acting for their own selfish interests.
Yep.
And what's that interest? What's that interest?
Fame, notoriety,
Yes.
memories for their kids. I got my moment in the sun. Look at all this
If they wanted
press.
to do a story about it and tell,
They
could-
cleared it through every ethical board that you had to.
Talk
They
to
didn't
the
just
Supreme
write
Court
the
about
book
that.
willy-nilly.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Talk to the
Yeah,
United States
say
Supreme
Supreme
Court
Court.
about the ethical people you have to ask about to do anything. Don't even get me on that.
Have
That
you
is-
ever retained a lawyer?
Do I need a lawyer? What do I need a lawyer for?
I don't know what. There's no lawyers here.
What do I need a lawyer for?
You know what she should have done is she should have said, if she wants to tell all and tell the story, do a sit down with Vinnie Politan or with Oprah or with somebody.
Exactly.
You can tell
She
the story.
did. She was on our show.
Right, but why
Not
do you
this
have
show,
to
but
spend-
on Court TV.
But to spend money to invest and to put it into a book.
She wrote a book.
You can write one for less than $30,000 too.
And I tell you, the people of South Carolina need to go get some of their money back if her actions cause a retrial, because that is a financial injury she's causing people.
No, literally.